If you think you're gonna worry, you can stop it in a hurry. Sing Polly Wolly Doodle.
Good evening, boys and girls. I hope everybody had a beautiful day today. Oh, I see one of my friends is here. Hello, George. Say hi to everybody. We're going to start another bedtime story. Okay, so boys and girls, I have a very special story tonight. This one is called Harold and the Purple Crayon. This is by Crockett Johnson. This is one of my favorite books. One evening, after thinking it over for some time, Harold decided to go for a walk in the moonlight. You can sit with us. Thank you, George. There wasn't any room, and Harold needed a moon for a walk in the moonlight. And he needed something to walk on. He made a long straight path so he wouldn't get lost, and he set out on a walk, taking his big purple crayon with him. But he didn't seem to be getting anywhere on the long straight path, so he left the path for a shortcut across a field, and the moon went with him. Now watch the moon. The shortcut led right to where Harold thought a forest ought to be. He didn't want to get lost in the woods, so he made a very small forest with just one tree in it. It turned out to be an apple tree. The apples would be very tasty, Harold thought, when they got red. Watch the moon, boys and girls. So he put up a frightening dragon under the tree to guard the apples. It was a terribly frightening dragon. It even frightened Harold, so he backed away. His hand holding the purple crayon shook. Suddenly, he realized what was happening. But by then, Harold was over his head in an ocean. Boys and girls, that moon is still out there. He came up thinking fast, and in no time he was climbing aboard a trim little boat. He quickly set sail, and the moon sailed along with him. After he had landed long enough, Harold made land without much trouble. He stepped ashore on the beach, wondering where he was. The sandy beach reminded Harold of picnics, and the thought of picnics made him hungry. So he laid out a nice, simple picnic lunch. Watch the moon, boys and girls. There was nothing but pie, but there were all 9 kinds of pie that Harold liked best. I'm thinking of my favorite right now. I think that would be a cherry pie. When Harold finished his picnic, there was quite a lot left. So he hated to see so much delicious pie go to waste. What do you think he's going to be making next? What will he draw next? Let's check. So Harold left a very hungry moose and a deserving porcupine to finish it up. And off he went looking for a hill to climb to see where he was. There's the moon. Harold knew that the higher up he went and the further he could see, he decided to make a hill in the mountain. If he went high enough, he thought, he could see the window of his bedroom. There he goes. There's the moon. He was tired, and he felt he ought to be getting to bed. He hoped he could see his bedroom window from the top of the mountain. Do you think he's going to see his bed? Let's see. But as he looked down over the other side, he slept. And there wasn't any other side of the mountain. He was falling in thin air. Poor Harold. But luckily, he kept his wits and his purple crayon. He made a balloon and he grabbed onto it. There is, boys and girls, the moon. And he made a basket under the balloon big enough to stand in. He wasn't a fine view from the balloon, but he couldn't see his window. He couldn't even see a house. So he made a house with windows, and he landed the balloon on the grass in the front yard. None of the windows was his window. He tried to think where his window ought to be. He made some more windows. He made a big building full of windows. He made lots of buildings full of windows. He made a whole city full of windows. Do you see? There's the moon. But none of the windows was his window. He couldn't think where it might be. Poor Harold. He decided to ask a policeman. The policeman pointed the way Harold was going anyway, but Harold thanked him. And he walked along with the moon, wishing he was in his room and in bed. Then suddenly, Harold remembered. He remembered where his bedroom window was when there was a moon. It was always right around the moon. And then Harold made his bed. He got into it, and he drew up the covers. The purple crayon dropped on the floor, and Harold dropped off to sleep. The end. Oh, boys and girls, thank you so much for joining me again this evening in my living room, and I look forward to another night tomorrow night at 6:30. I'll see you then. Good night.